My next guest is Professor Tomas Olsson from the University of Stockholm. Dr. Olsson, thank you for coming to Switzerland. I hope you are enjoying the meeting.
Yes, it's such a nice surroundings here and a lot of good researchers we have here, which I also interact with, so I really enjoy it.
Professor Olsson, how are lifestyle factors start to influence the course of multiple sclerosis?
Yeah, you have some inherited genes, variants of normal genes that increases the risk. But they kind of cover up only, like you could say, 15-20% of the risk. And everything else seems to be through lifestyle environmental influences, which we don't know so much about, but some of them have been defined the last 10-20 years.
What are the best studied lifestyle factors that are involved in the increased risk of multiple sclerosis?
Yeah, I can line up at least 3 or 4 of them. And one thing you can really affect yourself is smoking, okay? So smoking is increasing the risk, about doubling the risk for MS. And in particular, if you have a genetic predisposition for MS, then the risk can be very high. So one thing one can learn from that is parents with MS wonder, what can I do so my children won't get MS? They should not smoke, okay? And we also know now that smoking is one of the factors. If you go on smoking after diagnosis, it makes your disease progress faster. So it's very important to advise persons with MS to quit smoking if they do. So that is one factor. And then a factor that has been known since long is the Epstein-Barr virus infection that increases the risk. But especially if you get it during adolescence. But this is a factor that is very difficult to modify. You cannot really do anything about it. Thirdly, we have the vitamin D sun exposure. I think it's very clear, at least during adolescence, but up to the age of 20, that vitamin D is important. So it's good to have high vitamin D levels. It's also good with some sun exposure. Those having very low sun exposure, they have an increased risk to get MS. Then we have also been able to see that obesity also during adolescence can increase risk. If you are very obese, that's not good. And that is potentially possible to modify.
How do you investigate the interaction between lifestyle factors and the risk of multiple sclerosis?
Yeah, that is what we have done. So both with smoking, EBV and obesity, the risk becomes much higher if you have the MS predisposing, so normal genes. And so they interact.
Why is it so important to combine environmental factors and genetical fields when assessing the risk of multiple sclerosis?
So, traditionally epidemiologists have only collected information about factors but not taken blood samples, and geneticists has only taken blood samples. But it's important to do both and combine the knowledge.
What is your opinion of how inflammatory lung diseases can influence the risk of multiple sclerosis?
Yeah, so we know that nicotine is not dangerous, okay? So it's the lung irritation that is important. And also organic solvent leads to lung irritation. And what we believe but do not know for sure is that or we know for sure that the lung irritations leads to inflammation in the lung, and with the production of molecules from the immune cells that are increasing inflammation. So that is one factor. But then we think in the lung, probably there are these cells with receptors that recognize brain antigens, autoimmune cells. And that is known experimentally that such cells may reside in the lung, and they can be activated in the lung and go to the brain and create inflammation, which is what's happening during MS.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.